Hello everyone and good afternoon. My name is Tracie Daly and I'm the development chef for Ballymaloe Foods, and I am so proud to be here today interviewing Raquel Noboa on sustainability in Ireland through businesses, and this is such an exciting opportunity. And so what I'll do is I'll firstly ask you the very first question. Tell me a little bit about yourself.
I'm originally from Spain. Moved to Ireland when I was 17, very young, started working in hospitality, and I've worked in the industry all my life up until 2017 when I decided to leave my career and branch out to create an environmental educational company, which is 50 Shades Greener.
Wow, and that's the reason we're here today, to talk a bit more about that. So let's kick it off. What does sustainable food mean to you?
I guess with all things sustainability, for me it means looking at the entire life cycle of food, the food that we eat, or food systems, from the way we produce it, to the way we process it, even to the way we transport it, and to the end of its life, so how we dispose of it at the end. And I'm a firm believer, and many people might not agree with this, but I firmly believe our current food systems are broken. Growing food is creating huge environmental issues. We're deforesting land all over the world. The Amazon's nearly gone, the Amazon forest, just for agricultural land. We're using enormous amounts of water. We're then putting fertilizers and chemicals who are then, in the other hand, killing biodiversity and ecosystems. We are even exploiting people. There is a lot of slavery in agriculture around the world, all to create this food, and then we go and put 30% of it in the bin. Before it even gets to our plates, 30% of food that we produce ends in the bin, plus then all the food waste that is produced from our own plates. And so there is something broken.
Yeah.
The entire system is broken and it needs to change. We've kind of become a society that is very detached from the food we eat, and we've forgotten what that process is. You know, how difficult it is, and how many resources are extracted from the planet for us to be able to get that food.
It's funny, even as you're saying all of that, I'm thinking of colourful advertisements where we're absolutely taken away on a whirlwind journey, that's the item we want because it's bright and colourful and it's popping. But if we step back and look fully at the journey you've just brought us on, which is from the very beginning, and I love the description of the end of life through waste and what that actually means. And there's so many steps within that thought process, isn't it? From farm to plate, what does that really mean? And that journey, but it's not just a plate. And I love that you've highlighted it. It's beyond the plate, isn't it?
Yeah. Its entire life cycle, and it all goes back to this concept of the circular economy. It's the circular economy for food, you know, and there is nothing, absolutely nothing in food that should be wasted. I actually heard, I follow this great zero food waste chef online, and one of the most powerful things he ever said, it was so simple. He said, when it comes to food waste, question everything, because nothing should be waste. And he's very true. I mean, even those things that for 10 different reasons we can't eat, that is compost, that is energy that can be brought back into life as fertilizer for our plants and our gardens. And so, what is this issue? Why are we putting so much food in the bin?
In the bin, exactly.
So
go beyond it.
Yes.
And so it's the tools, isn't it? It's the tools, the information, the knowledge, and the education, which makes perfect sense that you do what you do.
Yes.
Isn't it absolutely powerful? Okay, because we're going to come back to that. We'll focus heavily on 50 Shades Greener. But before that, it's more about you.
Okay.
Yeah, your background.
The bad part.
Where you've come from, why you do what you do. So if we go back to growing up, were you educated about sustainability, either at home or in school?
Not in the traditional method of education. We never spoke about climate change in a school. We never talked about carbon emissions. I never learned about food waste, anything really in a school. But I guess, you know, if I look back now at the way I grew up, you know, we were a pretty sustainable family, I think. And one story always comes to mind because I tell it to my students, my secondary school students, is my grandmother used to say, you buy cheap and you buy twice. And she was obviously referring to fashion, and what we know now as fast fashion. We'd always be saying, oh mom, I need to go shopping and buy the new spring collection coat, and my grandmother would be saying, but did you not buy one last year? And I'd be like, oh yeah, but that's out of fashion now. And my grandmother could never comprehend this, and she used to just say she would buy a one good piece, and that piece will last her 10 years, and there was no reason for her to go and buy another piece. And that is so true. You know, we are bombarded with advertising. There is now 52 micro seasons in the fashion industry. So apparently they're bringing something new every single week.
Wow!
So that to give us consumers this idea that we need to purchase more. And we've lost again the correlation of what is involved to make this top or this t-shirt, what has happened. And in 80% of the cases in fashion, it is probably coming from a sweatshop where a child or a woman has been forced to work in slavery conditions, really, so that I can buy this for €3, so that I can buy 10 more next week. And I think, you know, these are the kind of things that I would have grown up with. We grew up seeing chickens, pigs and cows being killed, slaughtered in front of us for our food. And again, a lot of people right now would probably think that is horrific for a 10-year-old to see that. And yes, it wasn't pretty. I didn't particularly enjoy it, but what it did is it made me respect the food that we eat. I realized that what we're eating, I've seen it being killed, I've seen it being then cured and prepared, and then I'm eating it. These days you go to the supermarket and you can buy a beef burger in a packet that doesn't look at all like a cow. You know, so we're losing that correlation with what we're eating, with the name of the food, chicken nuggets, fish fingers, beef burgers. You know, we don't really see the animal, we don't really understand what it is we're eating, and the damage has been done to the planet to produce that food.
Yeah, and the respect, isn't it? The awareness behind it, the respect for the animal, and even how you would have fed your animals would have been absolutely fabulous. So what you put in, you got out.
Yes.
And which is incredible. But even the transparency and the honesty within that process, as a 10-year-old, to be a part of that, and to now be able to reflect on that and fully appreciate and want that going forward for everyone around you as well, isn't it? It's to expose the honesty behind what it is we're doing and why we're doing it. Yeah, it's incredible. Yeah, it's a beautiful way to grow up when you think about where you are
absolutely.
now. Yeah, and how poignant all of that is right now in this moment.
I don't have children of my own, but if I did, I would definitely be bringing them to Spain to do those parts, but I know they kind of still see the whole process of an animal being slaughtered, and I'm sure a lot of people would say, oh, how horrific are you to your children, but I would love my children to have that same experience, because I believe without it, there is a missing link between us and our food. And we need to go back to really explaining how food is produced to our children as young as primary school. Why not?
Because they're our future.
Yes.
And then when you leave them out at this integral stage of the process, then we're doing ourselves a disservice.
Yes.
It's quite incredible. And even through education, you can affect lives of every age, which is I think the premise of what it is you do. It's all encompassing.
Yes.
Isn't it? Which is beautiful to think that you're able to do that. So from the last couple of years being able to set up this business that you have, to be able to bring all these people with you, I think it's wonderful.
It is.
Yeah,
I do pinch myself
wonderful.
every day.
Yeah. And then looking at your food from the bottom up to the bottom out, literally, it's wild. I love it.
Sometimes when you think about food, you know, and when you think about all these things, it's nearly a little bit devastating, you know, because we know that there is so much that needs to change. So it can be hard when you know a lot of the bad facts.
Yeah.
Because you can become dispirited, or you can become, you know, feeling that feeling that you can't do anything about it, and therefore you're not going to do anything about it. And I think that's again another mindset that we need to try and change. It's like, however small, whatever improvements we can make, we need to make them.
Stacking small steps continuously can get you on the biggest journey of your life.
Exactly.
Yeah, I love that. Okay, so what kickstarted the idea behind 50 Shades Greener?
Yes, I was actually working here. I was the sales and marketing manager of Hotel Doolin, where we are today.
Yeah.
I had a general manager, a really good friend of mine, Donald Minahan. He's still here, and he came to work one day and he said, I want to run the greenest hotel in Ireland, and you're my new appointed green manager. And I had no idea what that meant. I knew we came with no extra work, no extra money, but a lot of extra work, so I wasn't too happy at the beginning. He always reminds me of that. But yeah, I guess I started learning. I knew I had suffered from eco-anxiety since 2004, but I had no idea how to fix that. And to be honest, like many other women, I think we just bury our problems in our heads a bit deeper and keep going. And so I started really educating myself about, first of all, what is a green hotel? What is climate change? How do we affect the climate? How do we affect the environment? I realized there were three pillars that I could concentrate on at the beginning. That was energy, waste, and water. And that if I could measure my energy, waste, and water, I could also measure my carbon emissions, the carbon emissions of the hotel. And doing that exercise, it's really what got me started thinking, wow, if I can measure this, now I can try and take steps to reduce it.
Yeah.
And when I started doing that, my own eco-anxiety got a lot better. I stopped having nightmares because I guess you could say you feel empowered because you are doing the best that you can do. You can't change the whole world, but you can change yourself. And to me, that was good enough. If I was doing everything I could at work and at home to reduce my impact on the environment, well, then I could forget about feeling that guilt and that anxiety against something I felt that I couldn't control before. All of a sudden, I felt I could control my life. I could control my own carbon emissions and my workplace carbon emissions. And so, you know, we achieved so many great things in Hotel Doolin. They ended up becoming the first carbon neutral hotel in the country after I left. Now when they did it all themselves. But like within 2 years of a start of what I called my green program, we have reduced energy by 30%, waste by 40%, and water by 25%. So you can imagine what that meant in terms of environmentalism, but also cost savings.
Yeah.
The amount of money that we were able to save, and then obviously the owners here in the hotel are fabulous as well. They allowed me to keep that money and reinvest in it into bigger projects to become greener and greener all the time. But once I kind of saw those results, I just felt this was too powerful to keep in Doolin, and that, you know, I needed to teach the world what I knew, whether they wanted to listen or not. And so I created what at the beginning it started as a 50-step program, hence the 50 Shades Greener name. And yeah, I just branched out from my career in hospitality and I set up my own business, and we're here now. Talking to you.
I love it. Yeah, how fantastic. And to drive yourself to be here today.
Yes.
As in to follow your passions, your dreams, and to know what that really means. It's to uncover that and then bring all of these people with you.
Yes.
Phenomenal, isn't it? I love it. What has been, I love this question, what has been your proudest moment since setting up 50 Shades Greener?
Loads of proud moments, lots of difficult moments, but loads of proud moments. But I always go back in my head when I'm thinking about this question to proudest and happiest, I guess you could say. And for me, it only happened last year. The company had grown all of a sudden from a one-woman show to a team of 7. And because of the pandemic, I actually hadn't met most of these people face to face. We just rely on Zoom and Teams and the usual methods of communication throughout the pandemic. But I brought the entire team to the west of Ireland here in Doolin for a whole weekend last summer. It was our very first staff party, and from the minute we all met until the minute we left, we just laughed for 48 hours. And yeah, there was a moment I think in the last dinner that I sat back and everybody was having a great laugh, and I just thought, wow, I've put these people together. Yeah. I've created this team and we have this amazing energy together and we're doing such an amazing job. And yeah, I could say it was one of the proudest moments of my life, I would say, not just of the job.
It's beautiful because it's more than a job.
Yes.
Isn't it? When you're able to bring like-minded people around the one table and to have that much fun in each other's company. The culture of your business is represented through that laughter, isn't it?
Absolutely, yeah.
Which is powerful.
Yeah, I've always said 50 Shades Greener will be a company that works for its people.
Yeah. And
not the other way around, you know. Yeah. And that's very important to me. It's more important than making more money. It's more important than anything else. It's to make sure that we have a a good team of happy people.
Yeah. And so it's value driven, isn't it?
Yes.
It's like-minded people with similar values who want to strive to achieve similar outcomes.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Nobody that I've ever hired knows anything about sustainability when I hire them.
How lovely.
Yeah.
Because you're an educator.
Yeah, we hire an attitude. We don't hire a CV.
Oh, that's wonderful.
And so anybody that shows the willingness to learn and the curiosity. You know, you need that kind of a curious person. Funny enough, everybody working in the team has worked in hospitality most of their life. I do think it takes some type of a crazy person to work in hospitality.
Yes,
you know?
agreed.
And so I feel great affinity to people that come from that industry. I guess that's probably the reason they're both from hospitality.
And so even from that high, I'm going to ask you, what was the biggest challenge throughout this whole process?
Yeah, a challenge that I still face sometimes, and that's the fact that I've suffered, I guess, from imposter syndrome for a huge number of years, probably all my life, I would say. And I blame the parents, obviously. All these things come from childhood. I'm only joking. Yeah, it's that feeling that you are not good enough, and that this is a job too big for you. This is a project too big for you, and that fear always of trying something new. That doesn't happen to a lot of men. I see my husband setting up his own business 10 years ago, and he just a bravery at the time, and I used to think I'd never be able to do that. And then particularly for me, I come from a family of academics. Every single person in my family has gone through college, probably have 2 or 3 master's degrees at this stage, and I never really liked conventional methods of education. I learned by doing, and it always made me feel inferior, the fact that they were all such bookworms and perfect grammar, and they knew how to speak, and I was always a bit of the black sheep, always a bit messy, and loved going out not to study. And I guess I carry those feelings throughout my adult life, which wasn't too bad while I was in hospitality, because like I said, I learned by doing. Perfect industry for people like me, so I was able to advance my career in hospitality so quick, because once I see something done once, I can do it. I learn quick in that way. So I held really good positions. I traveled around the world with that career, so I didn't feel the imposter syndrome so much. But God, when I started the business, that was difficult. Because again, you would think, what do I know about setting up a business? And in fairness, I didn't know that much anyways at the time, so I was right to be fearful. But imposter syndrome is just something that it's in your head. Yeah. Nobody ever told me you're not good enough. Nobody ever said to me your business is going to fail, but I believed it would. And to get over that, I guess it's a process. It's a process is to remind yourself that you are good enough. You're not just good enough, you're absolutely brilliant, But I still have to say that to myself every day, because otherwise it's very easy to fall back into the bad habits. So imposter syndrome would have been the hardest thing I've overcome in the last few years.
Wow, well done. and that's it is every day. It's that constant reminder that you are good enough, but also not just to say it, it's also to verify it. So how can you give examples to verify what it is you're telling yourself? Because if you can verify it, then you have to stand behind it and own it. And so it's that internal dialogue.
Yeah, but even with my own, say, students were saying, oh my God, because again, I created a course, I put it out, people bought it, people were studying it, and I was getting emails saying, this is amazing, this is fantastic, you make it all sound so easy, and I was still going, oh, they're gonna hate it. It's just that internal challenge in your own head, and you're the only one that can fix that. Unfortunately, there is no magic wand. Nobody can come and say you're cured.
Yes. So you're working on you. Yeah, because you're worth it.
That's it.
Yeah, and deciding you're worth it. That's the start, isn't it? Yeah.
Well, if you can't take care of yourself, who's going to?
I love that. This is a conversation for the next channel. Because I love all of this. Let's see. What has been the reaction from the business owners you've educated on going green? What's your feedback?
In the majority, amazing. Obviously, not everybody loves what we're doing. You can't. It's like maths. Not everybody's gonna like it, but they're absolutely necessary in our own education. So the majority of people that we work with, obviously, they're there because they want to, and so that's the first step. It's much easier than trying to force people to work with you. But amazing reactions. I love when you know we're talking to a chef and they're doing the food bucket challenge, which is one of the activities we get them to do within our program, and it's simply just separating your food waste as it comes back from your dining room, so that you can see what ends up in the bin the most, that you can really see, well, it's the potatoes or it's the beef. And I love doing one of those challenges with chefs because instantly they go, oh, that's why. They know the reason is straight away, and within a quick one day and a quick change of a menu or a quick change of an ingredient, they might reduce food waste by a ton a year.
It's amazing.
And that's when the penny drops. It's
Yeah.
like, yes, okay, we need to measure, we need to observe, we need to see what we're doing before we can actually take any steps in terms of sustainability. Or another chef that we work with in Tracie, the Rose Hotel, Audran is his name. So he's a chef and a green manager, which is a hard one to find. Like normally chefs don't take on the role because it is quite intensive being a chef, as you know. But he just came up with a quick initiative there. He's reducing waste by 1.5 tons simply by collecting their coffee grinds and donating them to the local garden centre, who have agreed they're going to come and collect it, and they're going to use it to fertilise their gardens. And that's the full circular economy for you there again. Like, so this chef is not
reaching out.
Yeah, he's now working with another member of his community, creating that really tight relationship. But his waste that he would have had to pay to get rid of is now being reused as organic matter. So how fabulous, you know, how could it get better than that? So that's the kind of reactions that we hear from businesses. Is like, it's easier than we thought, you know, and they come up with their own ideas that we haven't even given them, and that's really the win. That's really when we go, yes, they got it.
The creative side of it.
Yes, exactly.
So networking and creating the community allows for it to be a much more all-encompassing space, isn't it, for that level of growth and the want and the sharing stories.
Absolutely.
How can we do better? How can we collaborate? And collaborations, I love collaborations.
Oh,
they make the dream.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. That's wonderful feedback. And I love that how happy they all are.
I know.
It's to see the value in the work, isn't it?
That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
We haven't had anybody that has said, well, that was awful. Yet.
Congratulations. Yeah, that's huge. What aspect do you find businesses struggle with most when improving their sustainability efforts? Is there anything that holds them back initially, or
I think right now the biggest issue is the staff shortages. You know, we're coming across hotels that want to be green, they sign up for or fully fund a program here in Ireland, and then it's like, okay, who's the green manager, and we can give them access to the online program, and they're like, oh, we don't have one, and such and such left yesterday, and that's the person we had in mind. Or they appoint a green manager and they're there for a couple of months and then they move on, and they're kind of left in limbo because you know, the program wasn't implemented properly before that person left. And so staff shortages is kind of the biggest challenge in the industry right now, and in a way, and it is their own fault, you know. I include myself in that. I was a hotel manager for 20 years, but we hadn't treated our people right for a long time, and it's catching up with us now. I do think the pandemic kind of gave people time to stop, think and reassess and realize, I don't want to go back in those working conditions, you know. And I think we've sort of created the perfect storm in that sense, and we are seeing a lot of places suffering because of staff shortages, and that, of course, one of the first things that gets affected is the green program. Any of these kind of side projects, where in reality what we need to get at is that your green program is not a side project, that is embedded in the culture of your team and in the culture of your organization. But of course you need a period of about 6 months to a year before that happens, and that's kind of the biggest challenge right now.
To get to that point successfully.
Yes.
Because when you get to that point, then you literally are hiring people with the similar mindset.
Exactly.
And so we march with our feet. So if this hotel over here doesn't have a sustainability strategy, but the hotel down the road does, well, I'm going to be driven towards the hotel that gives
Absolutely.
a crap.
And we have to think about Fridays for Future. You know, all those kids are in the next 2 or 3 years, they're going to be of working age, and a lot of them will be working in hospitality, and they're always going to favor brands and organizations that have a commitment to their own sustainability. And I think that's where the biggest change is coming from, is from society itself, is from the young generations, which is fabulous to see, I have to say.
And even for me, I feel if businesses don't have a sustainability strategy in place within the next 3 years, they're going to be left behind.
Yeah.
And so this course that you've brought to us is free for hospitality.
Yeah, it's fully
it's
funded. Yeah.
Isn't that just incredible?
It's amazing. It's an amazing initiative, and it's not actually happening in any other country in the world. And I am trying, because I am trying to talk to the governments.
Love it.
So I love the fact that it was the Irish government that started something like this. So it's all thanks to Kildare Weekly Education and Training Board. They came up with the initiative. They found me.
Yes. Oh my God.
In the hills of County Clare, and we started this collaboration where they're fully funding all of our programs for Irish hospitality business. However big or small, we have B&Bs, we have cafes, and we have 300-bedroom hotels. So visitor centres, we have say a Viking museum in Dublin. You know, the most surprising businesses that I would have never thought of are engaged in the program. And we're now working with over 250 businesses. Most of them hotels, so it's about 20% of the hotel market in Ireland, which is quite incredible for a project that started about a year and a bit ago. I said, all thanks to KWTV and the main funder Solas, they really have put their money where their mouth is. Even our governments have these sustainability strategies, but they are actually now educating people in environmental sustainability, and they're also funding our secondary schools program. So obviously they have they've done a huge shift in the last year, in terms of their own sustainability strategies for education. So just fabulous to see Ireland be one of the first ones doing that.
It's beautiful. So in order to get on board with this, it was the collaboration between KWTEB and you with 50 Shades Greener. Together, you guys have brought that to us, and you've made it so easy for us to do better and to know better.
Yes.
Because the tools and the skills and the education,
all there.
the challenges, it's all there.
Yeah.
Yeah. What's not to love about that?
Hopefully not.
Yeah. I love it. Let's see. If you could give 3 top tips to a business looking to make greener changes, what would they be?
Well, the first one is start today, not tomorrow. You should have started yesterday, in fact.
Yes.
Second one would be to measure.
Yeah.
If you don't measure, you can't manage. And I come across so many other sorts of, accreditations and logos and green brands where they're not measuring their environmental impact, they're not measuring their carbon emissions. And straight away for me, screams of greenwashing, because when you measure, you have data to prove what you're doing. You have data to prove that you're doing better. So for me, it starts with measuring. Measure your current energy output, water use, and waste production. And then number 3 would be, the team. You can't do anything without a strong green team. And bringing that entire culture of sustainability across the entire organization is not about appointing one green manager and letting that person run along to do what you can. It's about making this a culture, a mindset change for the entire company. Start today, measure, and create a good team.
I love it. And to offer the support around that, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah, because if you feel supported, you're never on your own then.
That's
so it's not a burden, it becomes...
Another good sign we've seen emerging from our students running green programs is that they're actually saying they're retaining talent a lot better, they're retaining their staff more, because they feel again, like they're working for a good common cause.
Yeah.
And so it kind of makes the hard days at work, which we all know happen in hospitality, much easier, because you feel that you're part of a team, and people bond better when they have a common goal, like a green program, reducing emissions, reducing waste. And so we're finding now that the green program is actually making staff stay longer with their employees, which it's really, really needed in the industry.
That's powerful. Bringing people together for the right reasons.
Yes.
Yeah, and sharing. And you said that if you can't measure it, you can't manage it. So for the whole team to be able to measure the improvements and the pride to be a part of that.
And I learned that when I was doing it here myself in Hotel Dula, and I was a
Yeah.
green manager, and I used to just die waiting for my utility bills to arrive because I wanted to put them on my charts and go, did we reduce anything this month?
That's fabulous.
And my accountant used to think I was crazy. She's like, you're the only person I know gets is happy getting a bill.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah.
It makes perfect sense. Now that I know more, is that it? Yeah.
Of course, yeah.
Because the education is everything.
Yeah.
Our last question. What is the key message you were trying to spread with 50 Shades Greener?
But for me, it's all about carbon emissions management and measuring environmental impact. Again, go back to the measuring part of it. I firmly believe that if we want to reach net zero by 2030, 2040, 2050, whatever they want to put the deadline at, unless people are aware of how themselves impact the environment, then we're never going to be able to help. Because you can't do something if you don't know how. It's all easy when we know how. And so, working with our schools program, for example, now we're teaching 15-year-olds how to calculate the carbon emissions of their houses. You know, and then in return they're telling their parents about it, and so we're creating this kind of intergenerational learning. And we're teaching the kids in the hope that we affect change in the parents. You know, so yeah, carbon emissions management, environmental sustainability needs to be embedded into our educational curriculums from primary school, secondary, FET, and third level education.
Wow.
Yeah, all
beautiful.
throughout. And for every career as well. It's not related only to hospitality or science, or it should be into every single curriculum.
Yeah. That's incredible.
So hopefully that's what we'll get.
Yes, fingers crossed. Well, we're coming with you on the journey. Yeah, whether you like it or not. But
you.
Raquel, I want to say on behalf of Ballymilly Foods, thank you so much for taking the time and bringing us with you on this journey.
Thank
and
you.
we'll have all the information around this course available to everybody through this. So thank you so much.
Brilliant. Thank you
Fabulous.
so much.
Yeah, thanks everyone.